Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Great. It's okay. You can react to that because we're all thrilled to be back here at Emory and thrilled for this day as we introduce Nate as the head coach of the Atlanta Hawks. We'll kibitz a bit, and then we'll open it up to questions, and Garrett and John will bring a microphone to you. So first and foremost, let me officially welcome you to Atlanta and the 14th head coach of the Atlanta Hawks, Nate McMillan. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to it. Good to see you.
It's great to see you. You know, we've seen each other on Zoom for way too long. It's nice to see you in person. You know, this week, Nate, we've heard from Travis, we've heard from Tony in their season enders, and they told us the backstory of how they were convinced you were the right man for the job and was waiting for the run to finally end to talk to you about it. But when did it click in for you that you knew this is where I wanted to be?
Really, it was at the end. You know, it was just so much focus on finishing this season. When I took over and, Tony and Travis gave me the opportunity to, take the team over and coach this team. What they wanted at that time was this team to play better. They felt that we were better than what we were showing out on the floor, and they wanted to see us play better basketball. So that was really the conversation that we had at that time, that we want to see these guys play better basketball. And it was never anything about, at the end of the season, we'll talk about a contract. It was just focusing on finishing this season. And that's where my mind was at, was focusing on finishing the season. We was able to get off to a really good start, win games, and, get into the playoff run and eventually finish fifth in the East and, continue to have that success throughout the playoffs. So it never ended. I think, a lot of people were thinking that maybe it would end a lot sooner, but it never ended for us. So really, I didn't think about really the future until it was over. And we had accomplished our goal of getting to the playoff. When I first came down and signed on with Coach Pierce, the plan was to try to take this team to the next level. And be competitive and get to the playoffs. And we had accomplished that. So at the end of the season, when it was all said and done, thought about it, didn't have a lot to think about. Great group of guys, a lot of potential here. And it was really, really not a no-brainer in the sense that I felt the chemistry with the group. I like the direction that the organization is going in, and it's like, okay, let's get this done. And both of us wanted to get it done. And Tony and Jamie and Travis, really, it was really smooth transition to get this contract done.
First time in your illustrious career as a player and a coach, you've been this close to home, to North Carolina. Did that figure into your decision?
I've always loved Atlanta. When I played, my family would, of course, come down, and they did come down during these playoffs. My wife got to the point where she said, listen, we're the organization gave me a number of tickets, but that wasn't enough. I had to still buy some tickets because every round it was more and more family members coming down, and the prices were going higher and higher. So it was a bittersweet moment in the sense that, okay, now we're in the Eastern Conference Finals, and looked at the ticket prices, and it was like, and we were sold out. And I had to purchase a few more tickets, and my wife said, okay, enough is enough. So being close to home, it's great, but Atlanta has always been a place that I've enjoyed coming to and playing. And even when the Neek, the human highlight film was playing here, it's just a great place to play.
Speaking of Raleigh, for those that don't know, Nate played at NC State for a couple of years after being at Shawan, and your head college coach was Jimmy Valvano.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about Jimmy V and his influence on your life.
Oh, great man. I really enjoyed. He was really the first player coach. They call him player coach, and I think a player's coach is a guy that he keeps it fun, keeps it loose. You enjoy playing for that guy, and Coach V was that type of man. I don't think he got a lot of credit for his X's and O's, because he was always, in the media talking and entertaining. But he was a really good a coach that, came up with, game plans and strategies as far as, defensively, boxing one, diamond and two. We had a number of different defenses that we played. Offensively, he wanted us to run. But he was this type of coach. We would come in some days and, he had friends all over the country. And, sometimes, some of these VIPs would come in and Coach would be sitting on the sidelines with his stogie, his cigar. He would tell us to pick teams. And that was practice. It was like he was that loose that he would sit over and have a conversation with his friend and smoke his cigar. And our practices were open, so the student body could come in as long as they sat in the upper bowl and watch practice. So he was really a good man to work for. And we had a lot of success when I played for him.
Nate, the Hawks' turnaround was so dramatic to make the run that they made. What did you notice? What was there a moment or a series of events that you saw this thing turn around like it did?
Well, when it first happened, and I got the job, really, I just told the team, my message to the team was, we all have to be better. You have to be better. I have to be better. The coaching staff, we all must be better. Coach Pierce took the hit because we wasn't playing well. And I've been in that situation before where a head coach is let go. And, now it's on the team to respond. And my challenge to those guys is we all have to be better. We need to be better. We're going to be better. And we got off to a good start. I think our first 8 games we won. Our first 8 games. So I felt then that stretch where we won 8 in a row, I felt they knew that if they played the game the right way, if they commit and they sacrifice to each other, we talk about trust. We talk about being connected. You play the game the right way. You play the game together. You don't get caught up in stats and numbers. And that's a real challenge when you have a young team, because all of these young guys they're trying to establish themselves. So numbers are important. We got a lot of guys that are still in their first contract, and you're trying to establish yourself. So numbers, minutes, all of that is really important to those guys. And a lot of times it's a little hard to sacrifice and do some of those things that's necessary for a team to win. But they did. And they ended up winning 8 games in a row. And it showed them right away that if you do that, you'll give yourself a chance to win. And they committed to that. You continue to see the growth. You continue to see wins come. We got better in the fourth quarter. The first part of the season, we lost a lot of games. We were leading going into the fourth quarter, or not far behind, and we would end up dropping a lot of those games. We started to understand how to play in the fourth quarter, how to finish games, and how to win games. And they just continued to get better. And they found themselves continuing to stay with that sacrifice, the commitment. I never questioned their effort, but it was like when you're trying to take that next step as a young team, you have to learn how to win. And they did. And they ended up having a real successful season.
You mentioned your family. Your son, Jamel, NBA assistant coach, is 25 years old. The core group, is younger than that. These guys are 20, 22, 23 years old. How did you bridge the generational gap with this group that had never had success before?
You can't force it on these, young people. You just can't force them into a corner and say, this is how you're going to do it. It really doesn't work that way. You have to work with them, and you have to listen. And as I said to Trey, and really Trey, because he's that point guard. He's the guy that's going to really lead us, and he has to be that extension of me out on the floor, and get these guys to play how we or establish the style of play that we need to be successful on the floor. But as I told him, it's a partnership. I'm working with you. We got to work together, And you need to listen to me and open up and allow yourself to be coached. But I also have to listen to you. And we were talking about, we talk about this all the time in our film sessions. And one of the things I said to him, because people always calling me old school, and I am. I'm old. So I bring the old school with me. But, I really went back to a movie that I asked him, had he ever seen Drumline? A movie that was filmed here. And he's like, of course I've seen Drumline. And I said, you remember when the director, when they were coming up with their last performance, the director was old school. All he did was he wanted old school music, and their routines and everything that they were doing was really kind of old. But he had this new drummer that was, this guy he was Trey Young. New school, had it. And what I told Trey was, listen, we got to find a way to mix the old school with the new school. And that's what they did in the movie. They gave him a little old school, gave him a little new school. And what I meant by that was Trey plays the game at a tempo that many can't play. Yeah, he's a very special player. But he was playing every quarter, I thought, the same way. The first quarter looked like the fourth quarter. And in the fourth quarter, conditions change, as far as where the game is at. You're going to either be up, down, close. So you have to adapt to those conditions. And those were the things that I thought he showed a lot of growth in managing the game in the fourth quarter, slowing it down, giving them a little old school, getting set up, getting organized, and not just playing at one pace or one tempo. And but still bringing your game, to that fourth quarter. And I thought he'd really, we really don't get here or get this far if he does not make that type of adjustment and, mix a little old school with his new school. So you have to just really be patient and work with these guys, and you can't force it on them as they used to do back in the day.
Okay, Sarge.
There you go.
One last question before we open it up. You talked about keeping an eye on the Hawks through the Nick years, and obviously as a player and coach, you've been coming to Atlanta forever. But your reaction to what you saw in the stands with the fans, finally got them back in the building for the playoffs, and it seemed to us that they were your sixth man out there.
It was great. I mean, it was really, but everywhere. It wasn't just in the stadium, and I tell our guys to block out the noise, and what I mean by that, you can't, even when your good things are happening, you need to block that out too, and to stay focused on what the plan is. But we couldn't go anywhere. I mean, the local news was talking about us constantly, all day, every day. To see that the building was sold out was great, And I think we played our last game here when I was in Indiana last year, and it was a rocking crowd. It was a close game, and but the building was live, and but during the playoffs, it was just incredible. My family, my older brother, who observes everything, came down for every game, and he was just amazed at just everything. He was talking about the concourse and the people that he was seeing, and his standing room only, and how so everybody was into the game, and they were there at the start. They weren't. I think in the past, the fan base here arrives a little late, but they weren't arriving late. They were in and ready to go from the start. So the experience, and for us on the floor, the players and myself, great atmosphere, and. That was another challenge for me, for our guys to make our building a tough place for opponents to come in and get wins. And we have to give our fan base something to cheer for. And they did. I thought the guys did. We became a very tough team to win in our building, on our floor. And, we want to always be that type of team that when you come here to play, it's going to be a tough night for you. And those guys did that.
It was electric.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
It was great.
We'll open it up for questions. Our talented assistants, Karen and John, will bring the microphone to you.
Hey, Nate. Good to see you.
How you doing?
I know you spoke about how good it is to be close to family, but what are the biggest reasons you decided to take this job, and what makes it a good fit for you?
The biggest reason is Tony, Jamie, and Travis. What they are trying to build here. When I first came here, I was the assistant, and I wasn't getting everything far as the plan, but we did have several conversations, in talking to Coach Pierce, the direction the organization wanted to go, and I wanted to be on board at that time too. And as I took over, then I started to get more information on the plan here and the direction that the organization they want to go. And Tony will do whatever it takes to bring a winning team here, and a team that character, all of that plays a part in what he wants to bring to Atlanta. And Travis, talking about watching Travis last year, I thought Travis did a really good job last year. They wanted to take that next step, so you had to go out and get some free agents, and to bring in Bogey, to bring in Gallinari, to bring in a Rondo. And at that, I think before I signed, we didn't have those players, but the talk was that they wanted to add some veterans to the roster that could help them take the next step. And Travis goes out and he signs those guys. He brings in a Solomon Hill. He brings in a Tony Snell, a Chris Dunn. And you add those veterans like that to a young roster, and you get pretty much what you got this season. So, and when you're signing on with a team, me personally, it's all about ownership. It really is, because if you can't be on the same page with what they are doing or what the expectations, then it's going to be a short, time here. And listening to them over the course of the year, and then as we talked about it when we were negotiating the contract, I'm on board. I believe in this organization. I believe in what they want to do. I feel that I can help them accomplish those goals. But you have an owner that is willing to step up and make it better, not just for this organization, but for the city. And you could feel his energy when he speaks to you, how passionate both he and Jamie are about making the Hawks a legit organization in the NBA, but also the city of Atlanta.
Coach, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
getting the official title of head coach. I want to go back to what you said about ownership. With Tony Ressler, he said earlier this week that getting the interim tag removed wasn't just about your experience, but it was really about your evolution and being able to adjust your style based on who you're coaching. And you alluded to that a little bit earlier as well. And he said the fact that you were able to adjust was the most impressive. But what have those adjustments actually been for you with this team, maybe versus other teams you've coached?
I mean, it's just part of the job. Really, as coaches, we have to adjust. We have to adapt to situations, and that's constant. It's just part of what we have to do. And what I try to do is prepare the team for that. The fact that you just don't know. You expect injuries, but you don't expect as many injuries as we had. Some nights you're going into the game, as Trey was the last couple games, some people thought we was lying, about his availability, but basically he went up to game time trying to prepare, trying to get into that game or play in that game, and he's back on the backcourt working out, and you don't know until 40 minutes before the game starts that, okay, he can't go. He comes upstairs, and I can't go, can't shift, or I can't cut. So now you have to adjust. Okay, now you run downstairs. Lou, you're starting, man. Okay, these are the sets that we're running. So you're making those adjustments. Guys get in foul trouble. The fact that we lost DeAndre for a big portion of the season, and he was playing probably the best basketball of any of our guys at the start of the season, really started to find his rhythm, and all of a sudden he's gone. And he's a big part of this team and what you want to do or you try to do out on the floor. Then you lose Cam. And throughout the season, guys are continuing to go down, so adjustments, adapting is what it's like my mother used to say, look, these are all the ingredients I have. I got to work with what I have. And, that's the approach. The NBA is not going to feel sorry for you that these guys are out. You got to find a way to get those guys to perform and, leave everything out on the floor. So I have to give a lot of credit to the coaching staff I think the coaching staff did a great job. Things like this doesn't happen if the coaching staff and a lot of people behind the scene are not doing their job. So this is an organization that has been successful. It's not just the Hawks players and Nate McMillan. Our training staff, our coaches. All of these folks that a lot of times you don't see. They're doing work that is keeping those guys ready. It's getting those guys ready. Solomon Hill steps out, performs when Dre goes down. Tony Snell comes in, plays well. Brandon comes in, plays well. Even one of our two-ways, Nate and Skylar, had their moments where they really helped us. And that is a credit to our staff, our training staff, our coaches, assistant coaches, getting those guys ready, keeping them ready, and then the players taking advantage of that opportunity when they get it.
And speaking of success with the organization, if I read correctly, you received a letter from Lenny Wilkens just after taking over as interim coach for the Sonics back in 2000. So have you thought about sort of that full circle moment? It's now with him being a former Hawks head coach and now you taking over officially?
Lenny is a really good friend. And another coach that who coached the Hawks who wrote me a letter, Coach Fratello, I didn't even really know those. I knew Lenny, but Coach Fratello, just as a player, I played against him. But they really became really good friends, and really the letter was just simple, teach what you know. And I thought that just that line was probably the most important thing. You can't go out here and try to be somebody you're not. And I take a little bit from, I think, all of my coaches that I played for, even back to college and high school. I take a little bit from all of those guys. I had great coaches from Little League on up to college and to the professional level. And that was his message, though, teach what you know. And that was crystal clear to me, and that's what I've tried to do. When I took over in Seattle, I was only on the bench a year, so I really didn't have that opportunity to kind of grow and learn from a lot of coaches. Being an assistant, within a year, I'm coaching some of the guys that I played with. Gary Payton was one of them. And it was like, the weirdest thing that, me and this guy we was just hanging out together. And now all of a sudden, I'm telling them to get on the line. And, Coach Wilkins and Coach Fratello, good men, very successful coaches. And it was great to get those letters from those guys.
Good to see you in 3D.
Yeah.
John Collins told us during the playoffs, again, repeating what he had said earlier, that he wants to remain with this team, but you've got, at some point, the team's going to have to make a business decision when it comes to matching a contract offer. Can you talk to the difficulty and the challenge of keeping a young team together as these decisions come up in the future? Yeah,
it's tough. It's tough. I love John, and I love what he did for us this season. I was talking to someone just recently about I didn't have distractions this season from our guys. And what I meant by that, I never thought about John's contract. It never became an issue that John was playing for a contract. I knew that early, that his extension, that we could give him an extension, but I never got that from John because he came in every day and he worked. He didn't pout. He came in with his smile and that good spirit that he brings to the building every day, every night, and he played. So I never thought about his contract at all. But when you're trying, as I said earlier, one of the difficult things I think for an organization is when you are developing a team and all of these guys are growing up at the same time. Trying to keep them together is tough. And again, Tony and Travis, they're gonna do what's best for the organization, for the team, and for the player. I think they're going to be fair. They're going to try to do all they can to keep the situation that they have intact in place. And but it is a business, and that's the one thing that I have learned, that going from a player to seeing some of the things that happen on the management side, you understand both sides, but I as I said before, this organization is committed to doing the right thing, and they're going to do that.
Hey, Nate.
Hey, Chris.
What improvements do you feel like this team needs to make in order to take that next step?
Oh, I mean, I thought what we first, I think stay healthy is one. We're going to Travis and I and Tony and the coaches. They've told me, look, take some time off. So we haven't even talked about that, and we will talk about that because the draft is coming up, and then free agency is coming up, and we're gonna, when we get together, look back on what was good, what was bad, our strength, our weaknesses, and we're going to try to address those issues. But I thought, we were solid this year, and we got overpowered against Milwaukee. I thought they were physical, but we've been physical too. I mean, the two series that we came out of were just as physical. New York and Philadelphia. I mean, they were big, they were physical, and we were able to win both of those. So, I like our group, and that's something that I'm sure we're going to be talking about real soon.
Hey, Nate. Obviously, you guys making the Eastern Conference Finals, it raises expectations for next year.
Absolutely.
Just what do you envision for next season? But also, how do you kind of manage those expectations if it puts pressure on the guys or you or the franchise as well?
I really don't. A lot of things have to go right. You got to be lucky. You need a little luck when you have runs like we had this year, and things just, for whatever reason, went right, and we had a lot of success. We know the expectations are going to be higher for us next season, but the one thing we've tried to keep this team locked in on is just us. Again, not the outside noise and what people are saying we should be or shouldn't be, because at the beginning of the season, they weren't saying what they're saying now about us. So can't focus on that. I always approach it one game at a time. Because you just, even though we had a lot of injuries, a lot of times when you have injuries such as we did this season, you don't have this type of season because it just doesn't happen that way. You need those guys to be healthy, but I think in some kind of weird way, it may have been somewhat of a blessing, because with all the injuries that we had, it allowed some other guys to play and be used and develop. And we had minutes for them. We had a lot of minutes for guys, so they could get out there and play, and the guys that we were bringing in were able to slide right in and fit in, and we were able to have success. You kind of think that if we were healthy the entire season, there's a lot of guys. It's not a lot of minutes. And again, you're talking about a young team that these guys are still trying to establish themselves. Trey, John Collins, DeAndre, Radish, those guys are trying to establish themselves. So they want time, they want minutes, they want touches, they want attempts. And we really didn't have that because we had minutes for guys this year. So, next year is going to be about just taking it one day at a time, one game at a time. And of course, you guys were right. We should be division champions again, and we should be in the finals next year and all of that. A lot has to go right for that to happen, and the focus for us is to prepare that team to be better and get better each and every day.
You guys talked about believing in yourselves all season long, and I'm curious if there was like a moment that not only you envisioned how far this team could go this season, but you envisioned yourself or hoped that you could be a part of that run long term.
Yeah, well, it's just something that I think it was needed for this team because we had gotten off to somewhat of a slow start, and we're talking about the playoffs. And, most of them had never experienced that and didn't know what it would take to accomplish that goal. So, but it's basically you are giving them a vision and you're giving them a plan, and then you're trying to give them that roadmap on how we're going to get there. So the belief is the first part, that you got to believe that this could happen, and but how is it going to happen? And these are the things we need to do to make it happen. And then we win 8 games in a row, and it's like, okay, we may have something here, and you just try to build off of that. And it was something that we talked about believing, but we always talked about the fists. We talked about the fists and a tight fist, and the tighter the 5 that are out there on the floor, the better chance or the easier it is for you to knock somebody out. You can't punch, you don't punch like this. You punch like this. And, so those 2 things that we talked about, I really believe in. And, this is something that, the fist, it's something that when working with Coach K, we talked about that with the Olympic team and how connected, because you had all of that talent, but talent is just talent if you're not connected. And I really believe in that. I really believe that, the 5 guys, doesn't make a difference, the 5 that are out there, but 5 that are out there, if you're playing as one and you're tightly connected, you're going to give yourself a chance to win. So that was something that stuck, and they started to believe. They started to understand the connection they needed out on the floor, and we started to win games. And anytime you win games and you're winning games consistently, then they can't argue that. They can't question that. And our guys continue to believe and continue to work together and get tighter. And they accomplished some things that surprised a lot of people this year.
You mentioned before how you like this group. What specifically do you like about them and their potential and what they can accomplish in this league?
I like their potential. I like, and I just start with Trey. I think Trey has something special that I haven't seen, and he, the postseason is a time that he could really shine. There's a lot of growth that's still needed, and but his talent, his skill is something that you need to have success, and he has it. You got young guys in Dre and Cam that are and John. Those are young, athletic talent that you need. I'm looking at Phoenix team and the talent that they have and the length that they have, how big they are. I looked at. I only saw it a few times, but when you look at Cam and Dre and John on the floor at the same time, that's a nice looking young group. Kevin and Bogey, shooters that you need. I thought Kevin had a really really good season this year for me, and because just listening to some of the things that were said that they wanted from him, I think we got that this year because there were so many injuries. Kevin had to become, because we didn't have Cam and Dre, so Kevin had to become not only a scorer, a guy who plays with the ball, but a guy who we got to put on the best offensive player. So he became a better defender, a better two-way guy. Bogey, his ability to shoot the ball, you need that. So Clint and Big O, Oyeka, that's a really good young talented team. So all of that impressed me, and with that type of potential and what I saw from these guys they want to win, and they got a taste of it. So now we have to go into this offseason and improve. But I think those guys believe in what we're trying to do here and each other. And, to me, it's kind of similar to Phoenix in the bubble last year. They go 8-0 in that bubble, and they got a taste of success and believing and, playing the game the right way. And, Coach Monty has given them direction, and that run is still going on. So I see that type of potential and that type of belief with this group.
The NBA schedule is always brutal, more so this past year. A few days after you took over, you got an All-Star break. What was that All-Star break like for you in trying to get ready for what you had left this season?
To try to get some rest, it was brutal, and it was brutal on these players. Just my past experience playing in the league really helped me, and because as I told the coaches a few times, I know if I'm feeling tired, what those guys are feeling like. So we really didn't practice. We couldn't practice. Our guys, constantly talking with our trainers about where the guys were at. And, we went to basically teaching through film. So a lot of our teaching was in the film room. Well, out here, because we couldn't even go in the film room. We couldn't be that close. So we put a big screen right on the wall right there. and we spread out the chairs because the NBA made us do that. And a lot of our film sessions were out here teaching. So it was a real challenge. It was a real challenge for me because now I'm taking over in the middle of the season, and you can't change much. So really relied on our assistant coaches. We pretty much stayed with the same system that was put in by Coach Pierce, and we slowly start to adjust and add some things to what we were doing, and so that I could feel a little bit more comfortable. But it was a unbelievable challenge, for these guys. You're tested twice a day. You can't go anywhere. You can't have family come to see you. You're playing in empty arenas, So really a challenge this year. But I mean, the NBA pulled it off, and I think the players pulled it off. It was competitive. They were good games. And, when the fan base was able to come back, that made it even better.
You described yourself as old, and I'll respectfully disagree, but since you said that and since you had expressed some initial reluctance when offered the interim job, can I ask, can you share anything about your long-term plans, and how long would you like to see in a perfect world this go for you?
A lot of when I was let go last year with Indiana, that was like it was a shock, to say the least. And immediately after that, I just said that, look, I'm taking a year off, and I need to get away. And the reason for that is because I put everything I have into who I'm working for and my players, the organization. I got both feet in. And when that happened, it was like I need to just take some time and think about, do I want to continue to do this? And you basically what I was saying was I was really looking for this organization, because you just need to be on the same page with what your plan is, and I thought that we were, but found out that we were not, and so I put that out there that I was going to take a year off and didn't know what I was going to do, and a lot of people thought that I was just done with coaching. And I wasn't done with coaching. I was done with some other things. But when Coach Pierce came down to talk to me about coming to help him and in an assistant role, I accepted that because I knew exactly where he was in trying to take a young team, young organization to the next level and make them competitive. And we talked a couple times and decided to do that and be an assistant and not be in the light. I don't have to be out here and excuse me, answer the question. I could just coach. And that was cool. And you're going to be with a young group. That worked for me. And it took me some time. I had watched one too many episodes of what was it, Jeopardy? I was watching, and Family Feud. I found myself in the living room watching those shows at night and saying, I can't do this for a year. I really can't. That's for real. That's a true story. I love Family Feud. My wife is a big Jeopardy. But it was like, there's no way this is how my day is going to go. Every day I'm sitting in the house, and it was like, okay, I think I'll take you up on that. And, so, once I came down and then, some things happened that, no one anticipated. And back on the sidelines, and now you're back on the sidelines and you're coaching, which is what I love. I love it. I love working with the players, the coaches, and it's even better, when you have a chance to win some games, so all of that came about this season where, I'm back on the sidelines, didn't expect it, but here I am, and we're competitive, and I like this. I like this group. So things it's really a blessing. It's really a blessing. And as I've said, sometimes one door closes and another door will open, and it's just, it's really, it's weird when you kind of think about all that has happened with me and Coach Pierce. He's now in Indiana, and I'm here in Atlanta, and it's just, have no way of explaining that.
So, Coach, you mentioned being on the same page. I know you haven't had a lot of time to maybe have this conversation with Travis Schlenk, but we are a few weeks away, of course, from the draft as well as free agency. So I'm just going to ask, in terms of your philosophy, 1A and 1B, from the draft perspective, are you more of a guy who believes in best player available or fit, and then from a free agency perspective, if you had a wish list, what would that wish list be?
I believe, that I just left my time was a few weeks ago. In a couple of weeks, it's Travis' time, and it's our scouts' time. And I've always been involved as much as they want to allow me, but I don't. Those guys are out scouting these players all season long for years, and to have someone like myself come in and just say, "Take that guy," I don't have the. I don't have the I haven't done the work on that, So really, what I've done with the draft of or being involved in the draft, the GMs and the scouts, they've done their work. They give me. I watch a little film on these guys, and they'll tell me, the group that they have and that they're looking at. Travis knows our needs. Our scouts, they know our needs. And this is something that is not just, it starts now. They knew that before the start of the season. So they've gone out and scouted all these positions, all these players, and they have a list of who they want. So really, the draft, how much will I be involved in making? I don't make the decision, and I would never do that because that's not my hat. That's what Travis does, and that's what our scouts are there for, and they do their due diligence on these guys and find out the background and. They know what type of player that Travis and Tony wants for this organization, and they'll go out and select them. And then when they bring them to me, then I have to coach them up. So it's like Big O. Big O is every game he improved, and his minutes continue to just go up. And he was solid for us to the point that we were, I was, really concerned putting him up against a big Embiid and a Lopez, but he held his own against both of those players. And, so that's my job, is once they get here, you develop them, you coach them up. But as far as the scouting and the draft, I'll get asked some questions, and I'll look at some film, of course, on our guys. Free agency, probably a little bit more involved in that. But still, that's as an organization, the one thing that Tony has said is he wants everybody's input. But the final decision, of course, is going to be in that. It's going to be Tony and Travis' decision on who they select and who they bring in. And it's just like it's my decision on who I sub in and sub out, who is playing in the fourth quarter. That's my time, This off season is their time.
Thank you all for your questions. That was great. Coach, officially, we welcome
Thank
you
you.
to Atlanta. You know that beautiful MLK court that we have and that mosaic at midcourt? You're part of that now.
Yes.
You're a big part of our city and what makes this city great. So we welcome you to the Hawks. We welcome you to Atlanta. We can't wait to work with you.
Thank you. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Bob.
Nate McMillan, everybody.